picks are the best to use for beginner guitar players. This is another misconception that has been alive and well, and I've heard for many years. And the reasons I usually hear are, well, for one, the thinner pick, it's easier to strum with a thinner pick. The other reason I usually hear is, well, it's more forgiving. Forgiving just means it's more flexible. That doesn't make it necessarily any easier or more difficult. And the fact that it's thin doesn't also make strumming any easier compared to a heavier pick. I have a 0.46 nylon pick here, very flimsy, a 0.88 heavy pick, and a almost 2.5 millimeter polycarbonate pick. Now this is beveled and has a point to it, unlike the other two. Just regular point, standard point, no bevel, and of course the 0.46. I'm obviously not a beginner, but if it's true that strumming is easier with a thinner pick, then I should notice a big difference when I use this to strum compared to the really heavy pick, especially. So let's test it out, the really thin pick. Okay, let's compare that with the really heavy pick this time. This was definitely not any more difficult. Felt different, sounded different. Now, if I go to this pick, the heavy 8.88 pick, millimeter, if I go straight across the strings like I did with the other two, and when I say straight across, with the thin pick, I was very much perpendicular, but it has a give. It's very flexible and flimsy, so it passes over the strings really well. The bevel also allows for more glide, even though it's very, very stiff and very thick. When we go to the 0.88, it's not beveled, so it catches more. So this is the sort of effect we have if I don't adjust anything. I can still manage it. However, I'm definitely getting much more resistance, right? Because there's not enough give. Now, before I dismiss this pick, there's something I can do to increase glide. And that means tilting the pick a little bit on the edge. Or you could use the inside edge if you prefer that, if that feels better. But just a little bit, a slight degree. Instead of being like this, I'm going to tilt it a little bit. Let's try it. Problem solved. One small adjustment made a world of difference. So if you're a beginner, I suggest going out, and if you can find a music store that sells individual picks, just get a whole bunch of them. Try them out. You might find that the thinner picks are best for you. You really might prefer them. There's one other point I'm going to make about the pick too, is when you're talking about thickness, a 0.46 nylon, the material nylon is much softer compared to a celluloid pick, which is stiffer. This has way less give, and it's also a 0.46. So remember, when you're looking at picks, don't just fixate on one specification. If you can't find a store that sells individual picks, you can find variety packs, assorted picks from Dunlop and Fender and others, where you can buy 8 or 10, maybe even 12 picks at a time. Some of them even have varying thicknesses and materials and even sometimes shapes. So I would try all those out. And then for you, whichever picks you find to sound and feel best as a beginner, those are the ones to go with. And if you have any comments, please leave them below. Otherwise, I will see you guys around very soon.